Welcome back, besties! The year is over. And so I thought, why not do a 2023 reading wrap up. I have a couple books. My goal was actually, I think, 35. Let me check my story graph for a sec. Yeah, my goal was 35 and I've read 23 plus what I call honorable mentions, but we will get to this later. So I did 12 books less than I wanted, and I think 12 books less than last year, or almost, or like 10 books less. I did read a lot more last year, definitely. Yeah, 32 books last year, so we have 9 less, but doesn't matter anyways, it's not competition. But yeah, let's start with the first ones. I started the year off by reading the first part of a German thriller series, which is a 5-part series, but this was the first one because it's the first part. But I think that was also the first book I've read, and I loved it. I've read all of them before, and I just felt like rereading them, and so I've reread all of them. So we have this one, book number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I might have to add, they are quite chunky ones, and they have like around like 450, 500 pages each, I think. But I love them. As I said, reread them, so I've read them like a couple years ago. But yeah, definitely worth it rereading them, for me at least. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna reread them again next year, but they are like on the top list for me. Even though actually while reading I did discover kind of that I liked them a bit more back in the day, but it was very interesting to see like what I've read and being like, oh, I remember that person, and like, you know, that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was like the first big chunk, and then I have a whole bunch of poetry books. I do have to admit, most of that is kind of like this Jack Edwards said that recently, where he was like, the code of notes app poetry or something, and it's giving notes app like Instagram story poetry for most of them. I do, however, have a classic, which is Howl and Other Poems by Allen Ginsberg. I read this, it's very short, like 50 pages maybe. I read this because it was in the Rory Gilmore Jess Mariano reading list thing. I think Jess Mariano. I do have to admit, this is like real poetry, and I feel like it's very deep, but I've read this at a time where I was like, oh, I want to read a short book, and I wasn't really in the mindset for it, and so I was like, for some parts I was like, what the fuck, and like literally half the book is one poem, and I was like, that's a bit long, like for my personal liking. I did, however, tab a few bits. I don't know if you can see them, like very small tabs, but yeah. So we have this, which is poetry book number 1. Then we have Dear Self by Patience Tamara. I think I talked about this before. I didn't tab in here, I don't know why, but I did read it definitely. I think I didn't have color matching tabs, so I was like, no. But it was nice. It was very simple, you know. There's like stuff in there like, let's just put a random page. We have, they survived the very pain that you thought you would reading again. You survived the very pain that you thought would end you. I'm so proud of you. It's like, it's very much giving like notes app poetry, but it was nice to read, and it was a quick read. So we have that. Then we have, I loved this, and it was worth every penny, is the Tupac Shakur, The Rose That Grew From Concrete poetry book, which isn't actually, it's like 150 pages, but I think it's technically only like 75, because you always have apparently like his handwriting, and then you have it like written down, like typed down, so you can read it in case you cannot like read his handwriting. It was very nice. I don't know how much of this is actually from him and how much of this is true, but you know, we'll take it. Some of them were good. It's also, some of them were not that like crazy deep. So some of them were giving like notes at poetry as well, but some didn't, and it was very nice. Shout out Tupac. Love it. Read that if you have it. If you don't get it, read it. It's nice. It's worth it. I loved it. Probably gonna read that again. I don't know. Then we have another one, which is She Was the Storm, which was also very much that sort of poetry. Yeah, like, I believe in you even when you do not believe in yourself. It's giving, I feel like those are not like poems technically. I feel like that's just like a motivational, you know. I don't know why that's in the category of like poetry, but it's giving motivational quote on Instagram, which does work sometimes, but you know, it's not very deep poetry or anything. Then we have Dear Midnight, which is falling into the same category. We have In the Absence of the Sun, we have Bittersweet, and we have Pillow Thoughts, the first one. I did tap quite a lot of this actually, I think. Not because they are so deep, but just because it was like relatable stuff, or stuff where I was like, oh, that would be nice, and like as like an Instagram quote. Like literally I was like, oh, I could put that in my story, it's a good quote. Stuff like that. I tabbed. So yeah, that was the poetry selection. Actually quite a lot compared to, I think last year I did read a good bit of poetry, but or like poetry, if that's what you want to call it. But that was actually quite the, this looks so messy, sorry. Like that was actually quite the poetry stack for this year, but it was worth it. And also all the time I use poetry books like this a lot to get back into reading when I'm like in a reading slump, because it's quick reading and it's kind of like this, oh, I finished a book, and sometimes you just need like a little pick-me-up, like I believe in you, you're loved type motivational quote situation. And so those do work. And I never, actually this one I bought new, and this one I bought new, and maybe this one, but apart from that, all of those I always buy secondhand or like used in any sort, because it's just not worth the full price. Why are poetry books like this with like 150 pages of Instagram story quotes so damn expensive? Like, not me. I'm paying half the price, not more. But moving on from the poetry, we have A Thousand Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole, which has been on my TBR for a long while. Heard about it, lots about it. On TikTok, like Book Talk a while ago, and like Steph Bora, I think, was like 2 or 3 years ago, I don't know, she was like, oh, I love this, it's like one of my favorite books, and I was like, I need this, and so I got it, and I never got around to reading it because it was apparently so sad. And so I was like, I want to be in the mood and I want to have the time to like enjoy it actually. And so I did, and I cried my eyes out. Like, it is very obvious, it's kind of like, yeah, like young adult, and it's like, you know, a bit like extra cheesy, not so like grown up and everything. And I probably would have liked it even more when I would have read this at like 14. But I still cried my eyes out. I'm not gonna lie. I tabbed a few bits actually. But yeah, it was very sweet. I didn't really get the part where they were not in, like, I'm not trying to spoil the storyline, but like where they weren't in contact, and then why they were so pissed and he was so different than before. Like, I don't know, it was just not giving, and the rekindling was like a bit like, I don't know. But the relationshipy parts were very cute, and like the relationship she had with her grandma was like very, very sweet. And the cover, like just color wise, because it's like what is the word, like pastel light colors. It was like very nice, like it's giving like watercolor, and it's very pretty. But yeah, like color wise, the design with the door, I don't know, but yeah, loved it. That was a good one. Then we had In a New York Minute, which was actually annotated by my best friend. I think I talked about this previously. We did a book swap, and that was the book she chose from a list of books that I was like, I want to read. So we each of us made a list, so the other one could choose a book we definitely don't have, and then annotated, and then we like swapped and read them, and it was great. And the comments are insanely funny. like she's putting stuff in there like surprise shoddy, or like I don't know, it's just like very, very funny. And also me thinking of her like reading a romance book like that is insanely funny. It's like very, very petty funny comments. So yeah, that was good. It was like, it wasn't the greatest romance book of all time, but the fact it was annotated, and like I hold this like dear to my heart because my best friend annotated it, but it was not the world's best story I've ever read. It wasn't bad, but she was like a bit obsessed with her sweat. That's all I'm gonna say. Read it and find out, like you will know. Anyhow, moving on to a German book, which is, I'm not gonna read the title because it's a teeny tiny bit of French in there and I do not speak French, but this is from a book series as well. I think it's like crime, but like very cozy crime, nothing too crazy. I think this is the part 4 or 5, if I'm not wrong. I've read the other ones over the past couple years, and I think this was like new-ish. And they are very short, and in German like 150, 200-ish pages, all of them. And it's a very quick read. And also they're like somewhat, like not really small, but like small-ish. Like, you know, like a tiny bit like smaller than the average book. And they're just like very fast to read. Also very nice like pick-me-up thing if you're in a reading slump and do know German. I don't know if there's different language versions actually. I never looked that up, but I don't think so. But yeah, they're just like very easygoing, very chill, like nice cozy crime. And at this point on like the like part 4 or 5, it's like kind of nice because you know some of the characters, and like, you know, like obviously the main character and everything, but like reoccurring people, and you're like, oh, I remember this from like the last case and that kind of stuff. Anyhow, moving on to something different is New Animal by Ella Baxter, which I did buy in London, and I read it in London, most of it. And on my way back to Germany, actually. It was very different to what I usually read, but it was very nice. Like, it was odd, and there's, I don't know, maybe like a little trigger warning thing, I don't know, but there's a BDSM part where she tries to like find herself, I don't know. So she goes into like, it's not a cult, but like she ends up in like a weird sexual BDSM situation. And for me, it wasn't a bad book. I don't think I would read it again necessarily, because for me from minute 1 I knew getting into like the sex situation and the BDSM like hardcore stuff was not gonna do anything for her, apart from kind of like breaking her more. And like, you know, that wasn't really giving. But apart from that, it was good and was very interesting because she is a cosmetic mortician, and so she has had a relationship with death anyhow, and then a personal like somebody close to her dies, and so she's kind of like, I don't know how to work with this because I've been working with dead people, but it was never somebody close, and she doesn't really know how to go about it, and so she kind of like tries to get away. But the BDSM scene situation is really not helping her case, and I feel like it was very obvious from the beginning it wouldn't help her in any way. And there was like a few, like 1 or 2 scenes where I was like, girl, this is not even consensual BDSM, that's just abuse. But alright. But yeah, it wasn't bad. It was very different to what I usually read, and it was worth it definitely, but nothing I would like read more than once probably. Maybe I have to read it in like 5 years from now to see if I still have the same opinion. God knows. Moving on to something more light, more YA-ish, is Addicted to You, which has been all over Book Talk like a year or 2 ago. And I was late to the trend as always. Are we surprised? No, we're not. I was about to say it was good. No, it wasn't. I have a lot to say about this actually. So I started this while I was at my best friend's place when we did the book swap. And I remember sitting outside in her garden with her, and we were both reading. And I was reading this, I was just like, what the fuck is this? And actually I do tab romance books a lot, not all of them but a lot, and this has barely any tabs and also only towards the end, which is saying a lot. Because the thing is, when they open up to one another, so basically Lily and Lauren are friends but have like a fake relationship to keep their parents happy, kind of, and to hide their addictions. They both have different ones, but the thing is, both of them don't really cope with it or get help, or if somebody tries to help them, they are just pissed off that somebody's like trying to intervene with what they are doing. Not even the fake relationship, just the addiction part. And then at some point it's kind of like, are we faking it still or not? Should we be together? And the like actually relationshipy parts are good, like not the fake bits, but when they're actually nice and like somewhat opening up. But in the beginning, or like the biggest part of, like, it has like 300 something pages, I think, like 370 pages, and I feel like the first 250 at least are literally just him drinking. That's also not a spoiler because that's the first thing you find out about them. Him drinking, like getting shit-faced every time, and people slowly start to catch on, and her having sex with random guys because that's her addiction. And you can clearly tell, I mean, it's an addiction, it's not supposed to be good for you, but you can tell it's not doing them any good. And the union they have as friends and like faking a relationship for the outside, they should have just taken that union to support each other for real and not to hide it and support one another by hiding it. And it's just not giving, because it's like, he's pissed off because she's fucking around, she's pissed off because he's only like drunk ever, always. So everybody's just like pissed off, and it's like, just talk to each other. But the end was kind of like sweet-ish, I guess. I don't know, like some of it, when they're actually like nice and lovey-dovey. Sometimes, rarely, occasionally, it's nice. And I think they do have good chemistry at the end of the day when they actually talk to one another. There's multiple parts to this with, I think, other people involved, not just them, but I'm not 100% sure. Normally I'm the kind of person, if I have a series, and there's a whole, like all of it is out, I just buy the whole thing. This time around I didn't do that, and I'm very happy I didn't. Like, I think I will slowly, one by one, maybe read them, like one or two more, to see if I actually like the series and if it's worth it. But this has been all over TikTok, and everybody was like, oh, it's so great, and like, you know, and I was late to the trend, and I'm not mad about it, let's be real. But yeah, it's not horrible, it wasn't great either, it's there. They should have just talked. That would have saved us like at least 150 pages and a lot of drama. Like, it wasn't even like enjoyable drama, if that makes sense, you know. That wasn't even like, it wasn't even like romance book drama, we see a good plot happening. It was just bad communication and drama for nothing, in my opinion, personally. Moving on to something better is The Woman Who Lied, which I bought in England and read in England as well, which is a very nice book. I read a book by the same author, which is Claire Douglas, by the way, for the book swap for my best friend. And so I knew that was actually, what was it called? The Girls That Disappeared, I read for my best friend. And it was nice. I had never heard of Claire Douglas before. And when I saw this, I was like, I'm gonna buy this and read this. That was the first book I bought in London. Actually, because I didn't take one from home. And I was like, I need a book. So I saw this and I was like, yeah, that is gonna slap. And it did slap. It was good. She always confuses me so much. Like, usually I'm quite good at like telling what is gonna happen, especially in like crime-ish books. But in that scenario, I'm suspicious of everyone at least once, if not multiple times. So that was nice. And I still want to read The Couple at Number 9, which is another book of hers. I don't have this yet because in London, in every single bookstore I was, they did not have it, and I don't know why. Like, they did have this one, and they had The Girls Who Disappeared, but they never had The Couple at Number 9, which I don't know why, but I will still buy that, I think, sometime next year and treat myself. But yeah, that was really nice, actually. I did enjoy that. Moving on to something I did not enjoy as much. I think this is very YA-ish, and it has like, it's giving Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It's called The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie, and I had to read this for class, and it wasn't bad, and it was very Diary of a Wimpy Kid-ish, you know, like short-ish chapters, and like the drawings and every, like, I don't know if you can see that, but like in the drawings and everything, which is fine. Would I have bought this and read it without having to read it for class? Definitely not. But it was interesting, and it was a quickish read, definitely. But yeah, nothing too crazy. Like, I think it's important to take a look at the history and everything, but I don't know if that's the book to learn so much about the history. Moving on to something better. Emily Henry, book lovers. I'm a Emily Henry girly, you guys know that. And I loved it. I tabbed it. And it was nice. I actually don't know if I would say this is my favorite Emily Henry book, but I'm oddly attached to Beach Read and... what is the thing? People Will Meet on Vacation? Because I read the other two ones in summer last year, I think. It was just good vibes, you know, Somerset book in summer. And seeing what the hype is all about, because everybody was talking about Emily Henry, and so I love this. And I still have the... do I have this here, actually? No. Oh, I have this, like, in the back there. Happy Place, I do still have to read, but I'm very excited for that as well. But yeah, I loved it, and I love her books. I feel like they're nice, easy reads. But I don't think that would be my favorite book of hers. Like, it's nice, and for a book lover, obviously, the fact that it's, like, book related, and their lives are book related is great. But I've seen better books. Like, it is lovely. I think I gave it like a 4.5 or like 4 stars. I don't know. But I'm very easy with giving good reviews to books and like good, like 4 or 5 star ratings. I don't know. Like, if it was a nice book and it satisfied me in a way, I will give it 5 stars or like 4.5. I'm not that like critical with it, gotta be honest. Speaking of critical, we have Elle Kennedy, The Deal. Another situation where I did not buy the full series, and I don't regret it. This one I think I did like more than this though, because this was just like odd stupid fighting kind of, and like not talking, and I don't know, it wasn't giving so much. This, however, I love the relationship they have, and like the chemistry they have is insanely great. I hate the cover, by the way. I think they have new ones, and now I'm sad that I have those, because the other ones are like more sociable, I guess. The thing is, I want to have them matching, so now I'm like, do I buy all of them in the new ones, or do I just get those because I have this one? Anyhow, I love the chemistry they have, but there was so much like misogyny in this. For moments I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, they had such sweet moments, like the beginning when they started like talking, and like didn't going out, like just, she was kind of like, he's so fucking annoying, and he was trying to get her to be like his tutor and everything. And it was like kind of like funny, like the dynamic, and then they had like good chemistry, real great chemistry, but apart from that it wasn't so great. Misogyny was real. And I don't know how to, like, I haven't read any of the other ones in the series, but I'm kind of curious to read more just to see if it was just him, like Garrett. Yeah, his name was Garrett. I was like, is that even his name? I don't know if it's just like Garrett who is strong with the misogyny moments, or if it's like all of the guy friends, or, you know, if this is like a thing throughout the whole series or not. Like, I would love to know. But I'm probably more inclined to read this, or like more of this series than this, gotta be honest. If you've seen one of my past, like last couple of videos, you will know we had to take a little break because my camera was like, that was too long, let's do a new clip. So we're doing a new clip very close to the end, because we have the last book I have read and finished, which is Zora Books Her Happy Ever After. Started reading in London, bought this in London, finished at home. It was nice. She was a good female, like strong female character for the most part. However, the love triangle part of this was not really giving. I think I mentioned that also in a past video a few weeks ago, but I couldn't think of the title. The triangle thing wasn't really giving me anything, gotta be honest. On top of that, I don't want to spoil, but for me, from the second we have had both guys in the story, I knew which one was better for her, and I knew which one she would choose. And I knew that something was off with the other one, and I actually guessed what it was. I'm not going to say what it was, but I guessed what was wrong with him, and it turns out I was right. And I was like, it was so obvious, and one of them was so shitty. Like, what the actual fuck's going on? And I was like, girl, why are you spending your time dating both of them to try and figure out who to choose? Like, one is obviously the option, and the other one is trash. Like, he's not what you think he is, and he's acting like a dickhead half the time. Like, sorry, but no. Apart from that, it was nice. Reminds me of a holiday as well, so that is nice too. But yeah, that was all the books I have read. That was 23 I counted before I started my video, which, as I said, was a lot less than last year and a lot less than I wanted to like go for, but I just didn't find the time. And if I did have the time, I feel like a lot of you can relate, I wasn't feeling the vibes, or like I couldn't, like, I have so many unread books at home, it's actually insane and kind of embarrassing. But I actually, like, every single time I did have time to read, I just didn't know what to read, and I couldn't choose because there was so many options. And then it was like kind of stressing me out to choose one, and then I just didn't read at all. But yeah, I do, however, have honorable mentions, as I like to call them, books I started and did not read, like did not finish, not in a way of like DNFing it, but in a way of like I didn't find the time, or I moved on to a different book. So number one, we have Her Majesty the Queen Investigates, the Windsor Knot. I started and I've read like 1/3, almost half, and it's sweet, nice, cozy crime. I just moved on to like a different book. I don't even know which one, but I just wasn't in the mood, and it's kind of like slow for me, at least. I don't know, like the storyline was a bit slowish for me at the time I read this, so I was like, I'm gonna like finish this at some other point, and then I just never did. But I will probably finish this next year, because it's not bad, so it's not a DNF thing. I just didn't get around in time before the year ended to finish this. But yeah, that will like progress on the list for next year probably. Then we have, oh, I hate this, okay, I feel like a lot of you would judge me for this, but I don't care. We have She Must Be Mad by Charlie Cox, and I've seen this online as well, and I've read like a bit more than half, 2/3 ish of it, and there was good stuff in there for me personally, not a lot. But the thing is, for like a poetry-ish book, I think it's poetry, yeah, it is. For a poetry book, and maybe that's just because I'm very used to like the Instagram notes app poetry situation, some of them were so long and it was so slow to get through. Like, I have never taken so much time, like I've never needed so much time to read a fucking poetry book, and it pissed me off, and I started again and again and again and tried to like force myself through, and I think I will finish it at some point, just for my personal sanity, so I can be like, I fucking finished it. It's not actually that much left, like I think maybe like 80 pages, not even, probably, no, not even, like 50 pages, but it's gonna take so long. It will move to the list for next year as well, just because I'm like petty. Like, this book pisses me off kind of, and it's not really giving, but I'm petty, like too petty to just be like, I'm not gonna finish it. So I will at some point, hopefully. But that was really, I was fighting with this bitch a little bit. Like, it's probably a great book, and maybe I was just never in the right mindset. I don't know, like, I don't want to judge whatever Charlie Cox put in here, but it wasn't for me. Not this year, maybe next year. We'll find out. You will know. Moving on to another poetry book, Pillow Thoughts 2, Instagram poetry, nothing crazy. I am actually almost done. Like 50-ish, 40, 50-ish pages left. somewhat quick to read, like quicker than this one definitely. And I think I might, like we have a few days left of the year, but I wanted to wrap this up. I think I might actually finish this still before the year ends, but right at this point where I'm filming, it's not done. So honorable mentions, but I will finish this definitely before the end of the year or at the beginning of the next year, but it will be done. And then we have, which I'm also hoping to still finish in the like last couple days of the year, is A Christmas Carol, which I started and I did not have anything to mark my page, so I'll probably have to start again, kind of. But I wasn't that far in, like 10-15 pages maybe. A classic, we all know. I actually feel more inclined to watch the movie at the moment, if I'm being honest. Hoping to finish. If not, I will read it next year. Gotta be honest. But yeah, that's why it's on the honorable mentions stack for now. We'll see how it goes. Whew, that was nice. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you like reached your reading goal for the year, because I obviously didn't, but that's fine as well. I mean, a couple years back I had like a major reading slump, like while I was still in school, where I didn't really read at all for a couple years, apart from stuff I had to read for school. So reading 23 books and having a couple honorable mentions I started, I would say is a good score and a good shout for a busy year and a lot of reading slumps. For like 23 is alright. I'm trying to aim for more next year, but that's a whole nother story and a whole nother video probably. But yeah, thank you for watching. Share your goal and if you reached it, or like your favorite book of the year. Actually, I don't actually know from those which one was my favorite. Like crying wise, I cried the most with this one, definitely. Apart from that, I really did like this one, and like I really like this one and the Tupac thing. I mean, I liked all of them, let's be real, but I feel like those might be the top 3 in very different as well, in terms of like, this was probably the most interesting one and like the most enjoyable just by itself. This was just very interesting and I like Tupac so, and poetry, so it's a win. And this, I just cried my eyes out, and sometimes you need a good cry. So yeah, that was that. But I'll again, thank you guys for watching and I will see you next week.